All right, welcome. Today we're gonna continue our What's Wrong with My Tree series, and today we're gonna talk about some of the symptoms that might be associated with tree health problems that are caused by physiological issues, or basically issues that aren't caused by insects or diseases, but are caused by the environment and are just generally symptoms that are associated with some change in tree health. So it isn't caused by a living thing, it's caused by the tree is saying, hey, something's wrong. So we're going to talk about that. And a lot of times it's environmental from the surrounding area. So today, again, we've got Mr. Toso Bozic, the owner of Yard Whispers and ATTS Group. And he is an arborist and has oodles of experience. And so we're going to draw on that today. So welcome, Toso.
Hey, welcome, Robert. Nice to have
Okay.
you here.
Okay, so how we're going to do this today is I'm going to start by testing you with some symptoms that you might see, that you or any other person might see, and then we're going to take a deeper dive into what might be causing those symptoms or any other symptoms that you might associate with it as things develop. So that's how this particular session is going to go. So one of the most common things that first signs that anybody has that something is wrong with a tree is that they see a discoloration or a change in color from the normal color to something else. So if you start to see a tree turning brown or maybe start to yellow, where does your mind go, Toso?
Uh, Robert, number one, I want to stress to your audience that 90% of the problem with the tree, in my experience, is actually all of those environmental issues, and it's related to the environment. So when I see the browning or change in the color, first thing I look around, where those trees are. So and location of the trees is very important in this case. So when you see the browning. So if I see the trees along the roads, along the driveways, and I see them brown on one side and green on the other side, the first thing across my mind is the salt that is affecting the trees one way or another. So that's one of the things. The second thing, I look the ground. If you see any yellowing or light yellow colors, which is tied to the roots and potential issues with the roots, either with oxygen or deficiency in the minerals, I look at in the soil and the ground. Is there any depression that is that the trees are in, that the water could be able to standing and stay longer in that sense? The third one is I always ask is what type of soil they have. That is a huge indicator of how the roots are developing, and our trees are adaptable to that soil type. So one of the very common issues is the heavy clay, compact clay soils that create lots of those problems with the trees on the growth and not yellow color, and really you see the trees are struggling. So definitely when I see that trees are browning, I look to location of the trees. Is it along the roads or where there is located? What kind of soil we have? Is there any compaction? And the third one is any root damage. That is very also common, that because once you damage the roots, all the rest of the trees is affected. And then is the other one is I looked exposure. Is it southern exposure, southeast, northwest? Where is the exposure of the trees? It could be potential for the sunburn and the impact of the sun on the trees.
And you have to note too, is it one tree? Is it all the trees? Is the tree in the low spot or a high spot? All of those things, because if it's that'll give you some clues as to what might be accumulating or be deficient in that area, right?
Yeah,
I often see if water been pooling there, then suddenly that can be a pretty good indicator. This is where gathering information is so important.
It's very important that gather information, as you mentioned, that the tree species. Is it 1, 2, 3? Is it on row? Is it again parts of the trees? For example, in the salt, you're gonna see that when they do the spraying, you're gonna see that like a shotgun on those needles that land, and in that case, you might see it's a salt. So it's always a look on the combination of the surrounding area, soil, parts of the trees, competition, how many trees, any abnormality, as I called, as you said, depression, what again, soil could be, is it sandy or clay soil? So you have to really, you have to take all of that in consideration. That's one of the
there's a
biggest
lot of
benefits.
factors that
There is a
can play in
lot of
there.
factors in
Yeah,
that
and it
case.
forms and that soil forms the basis of everything, right?
That's
What
correct.
about if you see wilting or distortion, like twisting or cupping or something like that? Where does your mind go there?
Again, I go to the same process: location. Look at where those trees are. Number one, related to, again, from the roads to the open fields to the lawns, and what's the location. Then again, go to the soil. But then if those trees are, let's say, nearby some of the fields, and agriculture crop fields, I know very well that farmers are using the chemicals for the spraying, and cupping is usually, and some of the formation is usually indicators of the chemical damages.
It can be,
Not all
yeah.
the time,
Not
can be,
always, but it can be.
not
But it's
always, can be.
and if you see something like that, you may need to go gather more information to sort of rule that out, right?
Absolutely. And again, I have a lots of clients, Robert, that people, when I look at either a coniferous or deciduous, that it's a potential for the chemical spray. And most of the clients say, oh, no, I didn't do anything. Then I walk into the yard and I see the no dandelion on their lawn. That's right away indication that they use the chemicals to control the dandelion.
Yeah.
or sometimes in the counties and municipalities, how they do the
Spray the ditch.
control, spray the ditch, and that's one of the way that you can get. Or you have a field nearby that is sprayed by the chemicals. Or in some cases, I looked in the farmyards where they use for the big spraying equipment, that sometimes when they come and clean up and wash and particles end up on the trees.
It's inadvertent, but it can happen. And so
It can happen.
when we're trying to figure out what's wrong with things, you got to keep an open mind and just sort of gather and just gather as much as you can, so you can discount certain things. But don't start by discounting. You start by assuming it's everything.
Exactly. And the other thing, what is also indicator in this case of the cupping and potential chemical, is the wind and the wind direction.
Yeah.
Where's
the prevailing wind coming through? Yeah.
It's a prevailing wind. That could be also for the soil, for the salt. Where is the prevailing wind coming? And in southern Alberta, Robert, wind is a huge factor for the survival of the trees and dry them out very quickly. So again, where it's wind, are those trees are protected or not protected? Are they in gullies or not? Where they are? Yeah. So all of those are factors. I have to literally, for any case of the environment, I have to go list by list and making sure that I put all of them, as I said, from the soil to the location, to the water, to the wind, to the spraying, and I literally have to take every single of them and make sure
there's dozens and dozens of questions that have to be answered to be able to rule stuff out properly.
Yeah. And
okay, what about if you see the canopy thinned or crown is starting to thin in a tree? Where do you go from there?
Two things. There's two things that when I see the canopy crown thinning is two things. One of them is roots. First thing I look at what tree does when you damage the roots, and that's a very common that people either take a lawnmower and cut the roots, or they're doing the construction, or they're doing several things. First thing tree does is try to survive and spend the energy into the building the new roots, and to compensate that is usually where the crown is get thinning and the smaller branches dying out and any compensation. So the roots is number one. I look at the roots. Is there any construction, any root damages, anything that is to the roots? The second thing is also very common is the winterkill and the frost. So what happened that again related to the roots in many ways, when during the winter time, when it's freezing and when the cold goes into the roots, and they kill the certain amount of roots, that's what you're going to see some of the top of the trees are dead and dying. And good example in this year is the Siberian elm, and most of the elm trees is affected by the cold weather, and it's tied mostly to the roots, the cold cold air went to the root system and killed a huge portion of the roots and this. The other time also when you see that the branches that are thinning could be also frost or cold. That sometimes you get that late or early frost and just snap it, and so all of those are new growth branches that are grown and they're still soft. They didn't harden enough.
Yeah,
you're going to see them as a death.
things came. There was too much of a change too quickly, and it just couldn't adapt and adjust to it. So
last and not least is hail.
Mm.
Hail, it will be able to, sometimes heavy hail is going to really decimate lots of crown and the leaves and twigs and even branches, and that's sometimes, to recover, it takes time for trees to recover.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, so there's lots of things, but as you point out, start wide, move in, and then gather a lot of information. And in a lot of these cases, you're going to need a lot of information to come in. Don't just assume, focusing on one thing. Gather lots so that those things can be eliminated when you're in discussion with an expert.
As I said, Robert, environmental issues are way harder to really pinpoint, and it's for all of this problem with the trees, it's never one thing. There's a very few times that they can say, yeah, this tree is killed by the mountain pine beetle. Okay, that's straightforward. But even in some of those situations, I've seen the row of the trees, that every tree is killed by the mountain pine beetle except one. And you kind of puzzle, how come the other trees are killed and this one is not? So it's always the combination of the thing that is happening, and especially with the environmental issues is, again, could be the roots, could be the soil, could be the water, could be the drought, could be the whole, and again,
it's probably all of them.
And all of them.
Yeah, it's probably all of them.
And all of them contribute to the problem.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Environmental is a tough one. So, but
it's the hardest. It's definitely hard.
It's hard because you can't do a lot about it, because you can't change the weather or the environment much, but you can do some things. So, anyways, well, that's good. Thank you, Toso, for giving us some things to think about. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for having me.